like bumping.
Oh, yeah.
More fun that way.
Alright, so here we go. We are all super excited to have a nice long pre-calculus period. So let's finish up. Here we go. So cosine 2x equals sine x. And this problem is going to be done in degrees. Alright, that's what our directions mean. We're going to do it in degrees. So we had started yesterday. Do you remember how we started yesterday?
It was the subject switches into.
We observed that we have a 2x and an x. That's not allowed. So we said, okay, we have a formula for the cosine of 2x. Actually, we have 3 of them. And the one we chose was the one that had a sine in it. So we had 1 minus 2 sine squared equals sine.
Factors.
Everybody with me from yesterday? We did this much? All right, and then we noticed, oh, this is a quadratic equation. So let's get it set equal to 0. So I chose to move everything over to that side, so this would be positive. All right, and then what did we do? Is this where we stopped, or did we get farther than this? This is where we stopped. Okay, well, what do we do now? It's a quadratic equation. I have it set equal to 0. So now I'm going to factor it. Now, as with all quadratics, if factoring doesn't work or you don't want to factor, the quadratic formula is an option. Now, I'm going to give you problems that factor, but if you don't like to factor, don't want to factor, don't know how to factor, you can always use the quadratic formula, A, B, and C, right there. But this one does factor. Let's see it. Plus 1 and minus 1, maybe. Let me double check that. Does that look right?
How would you do a quadratic for that with like the sines and the cosines?
Well, all that matters in the quadratic formula are the coefficients. So you're going to use A is 2, B is 1, and C is -1, just like always.
So sine
Except what you're solving for is sine x. Normally it's x equals negative b plus or minus da da da. This will be sine x equals.
So the sine you just use as a variable.
So yeah, sine x is your variable.
Okay.
So when we factor, we're going to get that exact same thing. When we factor, we're going to get sine x equal to 1/2, because I'm going to set that equal to 0, right? And then I'm going to get sine x equals -1. Now, you aren't done, because the answer to the question is, what is x equal? What angle or angles have a sine of 1/2? No, it's not 45. Where would those angles be located? You know what? He's actually trying to pay attention.
Stop playing with you.
You don't need an airhead. Don't you have to wrestle?
Yeah. Oh, he needs it for poker. Yeah.
When do you wrestle?
Tomorrow.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Are you wrestling tomorrow?
You're
Good
gonna be
luck.
here after school still. I'll be wrestling.
Huh?
Are you still gonna be here after school today?
I have a meeting till 4 o'clock. Then I'll be here, but I'll be heading to the weight room for egg elliptical for a while. All right, so here we go. Where does the sine equal 1/2? Quadrants 1 and 2, Tomas says very accurately. How does he know the sine is 1/2 in quadrants 1 and 2?
Because the y is positive, y is always going to be positive.
Excuse me, Chandler. Stu, what are you doing?
No, naughty Steve.
Does that strike you as appropriate behavior? Then let's not do it.
I'm gonna watch it.
All right, Chandler, what were you saying before?
Y is always going to be positive.
Y, sine is y over r, and y is going to be positive up on top. Right? So here we go. Sine is 1/2. What angle is that? 30. I'm in degrees, so I'm going to go ahead and use 30. One of my answers is 30. What is the other answer there? 150, which is 180 minus 30, right?
Yep.
Now, that one's done. Now we're moving over to this one. Where does the sine equal -1? Well, I don't know, but it can't be a triangle. Would you agree with me? It's on the circle. Those of you that say, why can't we have a triangle? Stop and think for a minute. Is it possible to have a triangle where opposite over hypotenuse is 1? Can that possibly be? No. So no triangle means I must be on the circle.
It's going to be a 270.
Where does it happen that when you put y over r, you get -1? 270. And we're done. That's the only place, right? So that's the answer to that question. Good work.
So that it's all those three numbers, I guess.
Yep, it's all 3 answers. All 3 answers. The trigonometric equations can have no answers, 1, 2, 3, 4, whatever.
Infinite.
Actually, yeah. If we didn't have this direction on here that stops us with 1 revolution, we can keep going, get more and more angles. All right, here we go. Any thoughts on this one?
Can we make
Okay, I hear 2 things. Given that there's no plain sine or cosine term, I like the suggestion that was divide by 4 and then take the square root. That's a perfectly acceptable way of solving equations, right? Now I couldn't do it over here because I had this guy messing everything up, but you're allowed to take the square root of both sides. Just remember when you do, it is plus or minus. Now you're more familiar with that number as root 2 over 2, right? So I heard somebody say that's a 45-degree angle. I am in radians, however, so I got to keep that in mind. Before I mess with that, though, see how that's plus or minus? That means I could have a positive cosine or a negative cosine, which means what? All quadrants. So I'm going to have 4 different answers to this problem, but they all have a 45-degree angle, right? Because that's the angle that has a cosine of root 2 over 2. But stop right there. I'm supposed to be in radians. So can you tell me what fraction of 180, what fraction of pi is 45? It's 1/4. So instead of 45, I'm going to think about this angle as 1/4 pi, or pi over 4. Now, why am I doing that? Because my directions told me to. So I'm going to get 4 answers. I'm going to get 1 in each quadrant. You okay? All right. I don't want you falling off the chair and getting hurt.
Big week.
Big weekend.
3rd place, 4 years in a row.
No more 3rd place. We're going to win. And then we're going to have some kind of celebration on Monday.
Oh no.
Oh, is it the one with the red cover on it right there?
No, it doesn't have.
Has anyone seen her iPad?
We can stop class and look for it.
We should do that. Should we take a break and look?
She says beverages. You guys are back there. You're back there?
Want to take a break? Come to the bungalow.
No, it's okay.
You can come to the bungalow.
Alright, sorry. Alright,
Play the dinger.
so what are my answers? What are the answers to the problem? Well, this would be the first answer. That's pi over 4. That I got. What about this one?
3.
Now, exactly. It's 3 pi over 4. Now, for those of you that are thinking, well, 3 pi over 4, stop. If you were in degrees, I said this is a 45-degree angle. How would you find the measure of that one? What would you do? 180 minus it. But we're in radians. So instead of 180 minus, we'll do pi minus. 1 pi minus a fourth of a pi would leave me with 3/4. That's how we got it. Now, what about the one that's down here? That's 1 pi plus a fourth. So that's 5/4. 1 and a fourth. 5/4. What about the one that's all the way around to here? 7/4. That's 2 pi, 2 whole pies, minus a fourth. That leaves you with 1 3/4, which is 7. So there are the 4 answers to the problem. So, Alex, that one has 4 answers. I know. Oh. Alright, we good with that? Alright, now we're moving on to number 4, which is a little verification, just a tiny one. But it requires you to know your formula for the sign of u minus v. All the extraneous talk, stop. We have a big test on Wednesday. Homework's due Monday. Remember that? So homework's due Monday. We got math league on Tuesday. We have a test on Wednesday.
The Colts are Super Bowl Monday. The Colts almost made it this year.
What are you talking about? All right, here we go. The sign of u minus v. The sign of u minus v. Here we go. What is it? Sine of the first, cosine of the second, minus cosine of the first, sine of the second.
Why is it a minus? The sign stays the same. It just
Come on, bro.
It's a formula, John, that you're supposed to
Day
know.
one, John.
There's no such thing as stupid questions.
All right, 180 degrees. I erased my circle, so I'll draw it again. Here's 180, right here. Tell me about the cosine of 180.
X over R.
It's x over r, so it will be -1. So the cosine is -1. What's the sine of 180? Y over r, which would be
No, it'd be
0. Sine and cosine are never undefined. That's why we like them the best. They're never undefined. So what happens here? Turns into 0, gone. So all we have left is negative sine, which is what you were hoping for, right? Easy. If we don't know our identities, kids, there's nothing to do except fail. Make sure you know them. All right, speaking of knowing them, look at number 5. Oh my gosh. Number 5 is all full of identities. Working them backwards. So let's look at A. Leave the numbers out. What does it say? Cosine squared plus sine squared. That's one. So the answer to ding 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 is right. The answer to A is 1. Now, could I have changed those 77s to 62s? Yeah. Anytime you have cosine squared plus sine squared of the same angle, they have to match, then the answer is going to be 1. All right, what about B? It is not 1 because it's a minus. What is that the formula for? Cosine squared minus sine squared. Well, you better get out your green sheet. It's on the back side.
Cosine.
It's the formula for the cosine of twice the angle. What's the angle we're twicing? 77. So this is a formula for the cosine of 154. What's C? 2 sine cosine. 2 sine cosine is the formula for sine of twice the angle. The angle is 10, so this is a formula for the sine of 20. What about D? It's a square root, so it's a half angle. It's 1 minus cosine over 2. So that is the formula for sine of the angle over 2, the half angle. And what angle is it? 50. So this is a formula for the sine of 25. 50 over 2. What about E?
Tan U plus.
Tan U minus D. It's tan minus tan over 1 plus tan tan. So that's the U minus D formula. And your U and V are 11 and 3. So this is a formula for the tangent of 8.
So these have two numbers as well.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. No formulas on the test. No green sheet on the test. Gotta know them. F. Cosine cosine minus sine sine. That's a cosine plus. So my angles are 12 and 6. So this is a formula for the cosine of 18. All right. One more problem on this page. Here we go. Find the exact value. You had to do this yesterday on your quiz. Find the exact value of the sine of 105. All right, so what are you thinking? We're finding the sine of 105. Split it up.
45.
Lots of ways. What occurs to you? 45 and 60. That sounds like a wonderful option. 45 and 60. Right?
Sine of 45.
And then our formula, which is, yep, sine 45,
Cosine 60.
cosine 60.
Plus sine 60. Cosine 45.
Perfect.
I see that.
Now, these are switched around from how I normally do them, but it makes no difference. Multiplication is commutative. So you can multiply them in either order you want. So that's perfect. Basically, we got sine of the first, cosine of the second, plus cosine of the first, sine of the second.
The 45s are root 2.
And we already know we're going to fill in these 4 parentheses, but we've done this so much you know the 45s are root 2 over 2. If you don't know that, you can draw your 45-degree angle, figure it out. I am going to draw the 60 because sometimes I get them confused and I want to make sure I don't, since I'm trying to get a good grade. So I'm going to draw my 60 right there and then fill in the blanks. So what's the cosine of 60? 1/2. Jeff, what are you doing? Don't stare at me like that. What's in your hand? Oh, your phone's in your hand.
I wasn't using
It doesn't matter to me. Where's your phone supposed to be?
it. In the zone.
Okay, put it away. Guys, I know it's Friday, alright? I know we have this god-awful long period after lunch, which next year, thank goodness, we won't have. But we have it this year, okay? I know that if I added up all of your enthusiasm for math, take all of your, total up all the enthusiasm for math in this room, it wouldn't even come up to my ankle.
Wow.
I know all those things.
I'm fully.
And you know what? I'm still walking in every day, loving my job. But what makes me not love my job is crap like taking pictures on somebody's iPad, having your phone out, the constant non-stop chatter and looking at whatever you're looking at on that iPad. I just can't. You know what? If I wanted to teach 3rd grade, I would be a 3rd grade teacher. All right? So, let's just have an understanding that we know there are several things against us. It's Friday, you don't like math, I'm boring as heck, it's this long period of the day, add them all up. It doesn't change the fact that we have a job to do, right? It's mine and it's yours. I can't do it without you, and you can't do it without me. So, we either live happily together and work together, or I become a stark raving lunatic and start handing out detentions. I do Saturday school. Bring it on. You can all come.
Party.
Okay?
A gathering.
Yep. Yep. And you can help scrub the recycling bins and do all the fun things that we do in Saturday school. Or we can just behave ourselves and act like the adults that we are. Alright, cosine 60, 1/2. Sine 60, root 3 over 2. Here we go. Root 2 plus root 6 over 4. We've seen answers like that before, right? Every time we do one of these, that's what happens. Alright, one more on this page. And we got another page to do, then we'll do something different. We need to find the cosine of 2a. And we are given, that's what we're finding, we are given that the tangent of A is 3/4 and A is in quadrant 3. Alright, so do you remember what we do here? It's really simple. There's a couple of things we need to do to kind of get the ball rolling. What do we need to do? Draw a picture. Draw a picture of your given. So our given is an angle in quadrant 3. Here's where you really need to be careful. This is tricky. It says the tangent is 3/4, but it really means -3 over -4 because we are sitting in quadrant 3. And if we do the Pythagorean theorem, this works out to be a beautiful little 5. That's one thing we need to do. We need to draw a picture of the given. All right, what's the other thing we need to do? Pick a formula. And actually, when you say pick a formula, you're right this time because that's the one that has 3 choices. It doesn't matter. The main one that I have memorized the most, that I use the most, is cosine squared, that would be an A, minus sine squared. You could also use 2 cosine squared minus 1, and you could also use 1 minus 2 sine squared. It is not going to make one bit of difference which formula you use. They're all the same. So I'm going to use this one. And I'm going to look over here at my picture, and I'm going to say, okay, the cosine is negative 4/5, but it has to be squared. So I have negative 4/5 going to be squared. The sine is negative 3/5, and it's going to be squared. Now sometimes we get too excited and we cancel these. Do not cancel these. Why not? Because that one is going to go away because of the squaring. You really have 3 negatives here. So it's going to be 16/25 minus 9/25, which is 7/25. And that's the answer to your question. So, pretest, is that what this is called? Pretest number 2 is done. That other stuff is the answer. So, pretest number 2 is done.
How did you know to come up with cosine squared
John, I have on my formula sheet, I have identities for cosine 2a. I need to use an identity. So any one, these are all 3 of them are on the sheet. You can pick either one, any one you want. On the back side of your green sheet are all of the double and half angle identities. That's how we know. Those have to be memorized. So you're acting like you've seen them for the first time. That good. Get them memorized. Okay? Alright. So there are a couple of things I want to do. I'm going to do one more problem, and then I'm going to have you up to the board to do a couple. I'll tell you what those are here in a minute. But before I do that, before you come up, get to come up and do a problem together with your friends, I am going to ask you to work on one more problem with me. It's very much like the one we just did. Let's suppose I told you that the cosecant of x is negative 13/12, and x is in quadrant 4, and I want the secant of x over 2.
What?
What? You're climbing around on your chair.
I was getting in my chair.
You fell off.
All right.
He's like learning.
All right, this is exactly like the one we just did, except the question is, what's the secant of x over 2? All right, so let's start by drawing a picture. You're in quadrant 4
Is the opposite.
of sine. This is the given. We're drawing cosecant. It's the reciprocal of sine. So this would be negative 12/13.
Yeah. No.
And the Pythagorean theorem says 169 minus 144, so this is 5. All right, so there's the picture. Now, what are you going to do about this? It's the reciprocal of cosine. Now, your cosine formula, actually, kids, is a fraction. The cosine formula is the plus or minus the square root of 1 plus cosine over 2. Isn't that right? So if I'm doing the secant, can I just go ahead and flip it over and do this? Would that be the secant? Now, you got a choice here. It doesn't matter. You could do it as a cosine, work it all the way out, get an answer, and then flip it over. That'll work too. I chose to flip it from the beginning, so whatever I get is going to actually be my answer, because I've already done the reciprocal part. Alright, so plus or minus 2 over 1 plus. Alright, what's the cosine?
It's bigger. No, it's 5
Over
13.
5.
5 over 13.
5 over 13. Right, now wait a minute. That's a mess, right? So I'm going to multiply everything by 13.
We got 18. We got 26 over 18.
So I get plus or minus the square root of 26
Over 18.
over 13 plus 5, which is the square root of 26/18, like some of you have been saying. Now what about 26/18? It reduces. What does it reduce to? 13 over 9, and why is that so wonderful? 9 is a perfect square, so I have root 13 over 3?
That's nice answer.
No, not quite. We're very close. But with these half angle identities, what do I have to deal with? The plus or minus. Alright, did we do one of these the other day? Yeah, we did. And what did we go back to? Go back to the original. X is between what and what? 270 and 360. Now, if X is between 270 and 360, then half of it will be between 135 and 180, which means that the angle I'm looking for, x over 2, is in quadrant 2. I'm doing a secant or a cosine in quadrant 2. Would that be a positive number or a negative number? Okay, I hear some positives and some negatives. You are in quadrant 2 and you are cosine. It'd be negative. Cosine is x. X is negative in quadrant 2. So your final answer would be negative root 13 over 3. Should we do one more of those? Yeah. Alright, we'll do one more of those, and then you can come to the board with your practice problem. Alright. It depends where your region is. Alright, so here we go. Let's say we have, let's find the sine of x over 2. And we are going to be given that the tangent of x is 4/3 negative, and x is in quadrant 2. Alright, so here we go. This is the problem. You're given that the tangent is negative 4/3 of an angle in quadrant 2. Your job is to find the sine of half that angle. Alright, so here we go. What's the formula for the sine of half the angle? Plus or minus square root of 1 minus cosine over 2. Now we're going to draw a picture. So we're in quadrant 2. That's the given. They tell me that. The tangent is 4/3. Be careful where you put the negative. It actually goes on the 3. Right? Pythagorean theorem, 9 plus 16, would tell me this is 5. So I have my formula and I have my picture.
How come that
Because this was a formula for the cosine, and that's a formula for the sine. They're different formulas.
If you don't remember how to formula, it's usually
Yeah. Yeah. You might as well just get a 0. I mean, you're gonna get hardly anything. I actually could draw pictures, I guess. You could get the pictures drawn, but. All right, so here we go. I gotta plug in my cosine. So I have 1 minus the cosine. What's our cosine? Negative 3/5. So that's gonna be 1 plus 3/5. Right? 1 minus the negative. I'll multiply it all by 5. So let's see, I'll have 5 plus 3 over 10. Is it okay if I don't write it all down this time? Timesing by 5. Which gives me, I'm going to erase this now, gives me plus or minus the square root of 8/10, which is plus or minus the square root of 4/5. I'm going to go ahead and reduce. Doesn't help me as much this time because I still have a radical on the bottom, don't I? So it's going to be plus or minus 2 over root 5. Square root of 4, square root of 5, which is going to be plus or minus 2 root 5 over 5. Briefly covering your eyes will not make it go away. I'm sorry. This is what we've got. Now we have to decide if we want the positive or the negative. Now, I always do that at the end. You could do it at the beginning. It doesn't matter. Sometimes, somehow, you have to figure out whether you're going to take the positive or the negative. So go back to the original. What do I know about angle X? It's between what? If it's in quadrant 2? 90 and 180. Which means half of it will be between 45 and 90, which is where? Where are you if you're between 45 and 90? Quadrant 1. If you are in quadrant 1, you are positive. So we are picking the positive root. All right. Now what we're going to do is go to the very last page of the packet, which I've already videoed this, so I don't need to do it again.